Welcome to Cut Through the Noise with Dave Toronto, bringing you the truth behind the headlines in business and current events. Let's go!
This is my first time going solo since May. I hope I'm not rusty. I've had so many guests over the summer. I'm not used to doing these on my own, but I thought for the next few weeks, that's what I'm going to do. That said, I've got plans to bring in more guests as the year goes on. I'm talking to some people about co-hosting. I've talked to some different associations about kind of an industry roundtable type of podcast for different industries. And if anyone out there can potentially help me out, I am very interested in talking to a traditional media professional, TV or radio. I have reached out to a few, talked to really nice people. The challenge is most of them are not allowed to talk to somebody like me. Kind of the news stations control the news people and the news cycles and what's said and all that. So it's going to be difficult. Most won't be allowed. But if you know somebody that has the ability or the willingness to have a compelling conversation with me about what it's like to be on their side of the screen or the desk, I'm open to it and I could use your help. But today, for today's purposes, I want to talk about virtual training. As many of you know, I'm a coach and a trainer and a facilitator and a speaker and all those things for different types of companies. And the truth is for years, I've absolutely been dead against online training of any kind. I have gone out of my way to dump all over it, criticize it, and all out refused to do it. Always, never did it. And I've prided myself on being a face-to-face person. I've said that in the past. That said, I am not a face-to-face person right now. I have met people over the last 7 months, but I have not conducted one face-to-face training session since February. And, during the spring, I was griping, privately, not on the podcast, but privately griping about, I cannot believe that I'm not allowed to be in front of people right now. And I probably said things I shouldn't have said. But it was frustrating because it was forcing me to consider what I never wanted to consider, which was this whole online offering. And the reason I resisted it is because I just never believed it would work. I never really believed that you could establish a true connection with people over a screen. And part of it was just fear of not knowing how to do it right and not wanting to screw it up and all that. But in a weak moment, I called a friend of mine who owns a training company in Boston, and they do a ton of customized development of training materials for the pharmaceutical space. And his name is Sean McMahon. He owns a company called Illuminate, and he was fantastically helpful to me. He took the time, and his team took the time to help me bring my stuff online, and I really appreciate it. I've talked to him about it, but I just wanted to give him a quick shout out because he was unbelievable in helping me, and I'm gonna be leveraging him for more stuff too. But I didn't know if it was gonna work though. So in July, I started to roll out my normal programs into Zoom programs or Teams programs. I mostly use Zoom. And I was reluctant and hesitant and nervous and all these things, thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have a tech issue, or people aren't going to pay attention, and all this stuff that I used to worry about years ago with face-to-face training. But the reality is it was unbelievable. And now I'm sitting here kicking myself because I think, why didn't I do this a long time ago? Why was I dumping all over this? I can still have that same interaction with people, even though I'm not physically there. We can see each other. And if I do it right and I set it up right, they're going to get a lot out of it. And so now I'm kind of addicted to it. So I've done a number of trainings and I've done a number of, group facilitations and I'm well aware of this virtual burnout. And that's the reason I want to do this today, because I sit in on a lot of trainings. Historically, I've dialed into many calls and I've sat in many meetings, face-to-face meetings and conference calls over the years. And I did a podcast on meetings either earlier this year or late last year. And the reality is I think meetings are terrible. I think they're poorly run by and large by almost every company that I've ever been in or worked for the most part. The meetings are terrible. They're really, really poorly run. They're a mental drain on the people. Rarely does anything get accomplished. And it's not because there's not good, smart people in there. It's because they're not set up right. So that's why I want to talk about virtual training today, because a lot of the same principles on running an effective meeting or an effective training session face-to-face apply to online as well. And I think now is a good time and a good opportunity to maybe give a couple of tips or suggestions that you may or may not be considering right now. So there's no particular order to this. I've been debating, do I just give you a bunch of tips or do I try to categorize them? I'm just gonna give you, 6 or 7 tips that I personally think if you really nail these, the opportunity for training to be great is there. And when you don't nail these things, I think that training is going to fall flat. And you can spend a lot of money and waste a lot of time and have a group of people not get anything out of it. And it's a shame. So I'm hoping that I can help you avoid that. And then if you use me for training, just know that this is how we're going to set it up. The first thing always, and this can apply to anything. This, you might be doing tech training, finance training, HR training, compliance training. I happen to do leadership, business development, communications. That's what I do. But the first question I ask anybody is, why would we do this? What is the reason? Why will your organization benefit from this? Why will these people benefit from this? What is the reason we're going to actually run this training program? It's really important that not only am I clear on why they want to do it, they need to be clear on why they want to do it. There are way too many organizations out there that just train people into the ground. They're just signing them up for crap. They're sending them to stuff. They're registering them for stuff without really involving the people, which is the second part of this, is who you send or who you ask to participate or who you suggest participates is huge, major, very critical. Don't send the wrong people to training. I hate to say it, maybe not in your company, but in some, I've seen companies hire people that they wish they didn't hire and keep them around way longer than they need to be around and then send them to training. I don't want them there. They don't want to be there. Everyone else is wondering why you sent them. Don't do that. So it's really important. You got to look at the people and say, okay, in what way are they going to benefit from this? Do they deserve the training? Have they earned the training? Will they do anything with the training? Do they appreciate the fact that you're sending them to training? And my type of training is professional development, leadership, business development. I'm honing their skills, their communication skills, their people skills, problem-solving skills, those types of things. But it takes time and money to help people in this space. Don't waste time and money on people that don't care. Don't do it. So I always suggest piloting it with people that really care, that want it, that deserve it, that are going to do something with it. So those are the first two things. Why are you doing it? Who are you sending? Are you teeing it up right? Very, very important for any training to be effective. This same philosophy applies to even running a meeting. Why are you having the meeting? Who's going to be part of it? Why do they think they're going to be part of it? All those things, very big deal. So that's the first thing I want to comment on. The second thing is have a structure to the program, some structure that you tell them about before it even starts. People need to know where they're going before you take them there. So make sure they know how long it's going to be. Make sure they know when you're going to have breaks. Make sure they know that they can't have their cell phones on. Make sure they know that they shouldn't be checking emails. If you want it to be an interactive session, make sure they know that it's going to be interactive and you're not going to do a death by PowerPoint deal. I've seen those, and I'm sure you've seen those, where you get onto these online sessions and you're staring at slide after slide after slide. No one's listening. No one's paying attention. You're just waiting for the clock to, strike twice, and you get it out of there. So these are the types of things as far as structure. People need to know what's going to happen. If the meeting is supposed to start at 8, start it at 8. If you've got 10 people in the meeting and 9 are there, start at 8. Don't wait for the 10th. Don't disrespect the 9 by starting late. Start on time, end on time. Give them breaks. Plenty of breaks, especially in a longer training session. My leadership program is a couple of days. Technically, I could go for 3 days if I wanted to, but I got to give people plenty of breaks to decompress, to recalibrate, to come back fresh. It's really important that we bring a clear mind and some energy to this in order to retain and apply this stuff. So structure and breaks and interaction and limiting slides is critical. The thing I would say, though, more so than anything else, is you better know your stuff. You better, as a trainer, whether you're an internal trainer or an outside person like me, you better be a master of your material, your content, your experience, your knowledge, because everyone in that room or on that screen is sizing you up. You better be 3 steps ahead of the most productive person in that room. You better be 3 steps ahead of the most senior person in that room. That's what makes a good trainer. You know your stuff. You can field anything on the fly. When you know your stuff, you don't have to stare at your material. You don't have to. You're not hooked on that page or that slide. You're still maybe using them as a guideline. That's what I like to do, is have them as a guideline. But when you know your stuff, you can pay attention to that audience. And that is the key to great training. Beyond everything else I just said, when you're paying attention to the audience is engaged, because it's you online even. And this is what I've realized. When you know your stuff and you do all that other stuff right, you can see what they're doing. You can see them move in their seat. You can see them lean forward. You can see as they're about to raise their hand. You can see one person's talking a lot over in the left corner, but the person on the right is trying to say something, but you can say, hey, you cut so-and-so off. I want you to talk. And when that audience knows that you're watching them and they know that you want their feedback, they listen, they pay attention, they don't check out and start looking at email, they don't take calls. That's the key to great training. That's the key to maintaining attention. It's not normal, though. There's way too many. I keep hearing what's it called, like Zoom burnout or Teams burnout, and I think we're unintentionally wasting people's time with some of this virtual meeting thing, this training thing, or this, maybe a virtual cocktail hour or whatever, which is fine. But when people aren't sure why they're showing up, or they don't get value out of that time period, or they don't quite know what to do with the time spent, that means the person who set it up and facilitated it did something wrong. And believe me, I've conducted many trainings in my life, and early on, I think I put audiences to sleep. I think I exhausted them trying to get too much information into their heads. I think there were times where I allowed the wrong people in the room, and I waited to start until a couple more people showed up. It was those little errors that caused training over the years to be not quite as great as it could be. And I'm trying to save some of you that time. I know a lot of the stuff that I was able to apply in a face-to-face capacity, I've been pleasantly surprised to find out that all of that applies to the virtual opportunity as well. And it's allowed my business to continue in spite of what's going on. So I am happy that I'm able to offer the same quality of training in a more convenient delivery model, especially given the current environment. So my hope is that one or two or all of the ideas that I shared with you today can help you. If you're doing them now, keep doing them. If you're not, give something a try. So I would say make sure your setup is really, really strong. Make sure that they understand the structure of what's going to happen, and do whatever you possibly can to keep them engaged. So know your material. I hope this was helpful to everybody. I've got a number of topics that I'm going to put together and record over the next few weeks. Each one of them I'm going to try to keep to 15 to 20 minutes. I'm going to shorten these so I don't take up too much of your car time or whatever time you're listening, your walking time. Let me know what you have to say. Let me know if this stuff works for you. And if there is a topic that you want me to talk about in the future, let me know about that. And again, if you know a media personality that you think would be a good person for me to talk to, please let me know. I will talk to you guys soon. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.
You've been listening to Cut Through the Noise with Dave Toronto. Please subscribe, and for more information, check us out on Instagram at CTTN Podcast.